The holidays can be a stressful time of year, but there are ways to manage that stress so that you can fully enjoy the season. Here today to give us some stress management tools is licensed psychotherapist Nanette Riendeau. Welcome to ciLiving.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So tell me a little bit about why the holidays tend to be more stressful than the rest of the year.
Right. Well, we have increased obligations. You know, there's parties happening and presents we have to buy and family gatherings and expectations. And it's the combination, I think, of the increased obligations and the increased expectations that feel stressful. So even for people who love the holidays or are doing really fun things, you know, it's really normal. I think that's what I really want to convey the most, is that it's normal.
Right.
That all of us, I definitely feel it.
Sure. And so then when you have that increased stress, what are some things that you can do to sort of give yourself a little bit more grace maybe, or actually some tools that people can use to feel better?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is really understanding what's happening, what is stress, because stress is the body's natural reaction to challenges. It's the activation of the sympathetic nervous system. It's the fight-flight.
Okay.
So it's the body preparing us to address a challenge or a perceived threat. And so a little bit of the sympathetic activation is actually really good. Nature designed it that way on purpose to help us focus and handle things as they come. I'm sure you have noticed, you know, when you're a little bit stressed or a little bit activated,
right,
you know, you're taking care of stuff, you're hyper-focused, you're getting it done. The problem is when we get stuck in that state and it becomes chronic, because nature designed it to activate us, to take care of the thing, to take care of the threat or the challenge, and then to return to a state of rest and digest. So it's really important for us to learn how to pay attention to what's happening in our bodies and what's happening in our minds so that we can identify that's what's going on, because we have to identify it before we can address it.
That makes sense. And then you have an acronym, right, to sort of help people through the process of identifying those stress triggers and then dealing with them?
Yes. So the acronym really is more for responding to. So identifying is just notice both in your thoughts and your moods and your body. So you're going to find increased tension, you might have a headache, you might be harder to sleep, you might find you're getting stomach aches. Notice those things in your body. Notice irritability, that feeling of overwhelm. Maybe you're feeling like you're quick to cry. That's what you pay attention to. And then my acronym I came up with is PEACE. So PEACE stands for, P is for perfectionism. It's really important to notice when we get caught up in perfectionism, because we see these images of the perfect holiday everywhere. You see it in social media and on the movies and commercials,
right,
even in our own minds, and then we start comparing ourselves to that. And nobody's life, nobody's holiday, nobody's experience is as sparkly as it looks.
Of course, it's that whole Instagram versus reality thing
and
that
so
we talk about.
find ourselves comparing our insides to other people's outsides.
Okay, sure.
Right, or this vision we have in our mind. So we have to notice when we're doing that and let ourselves off the hook a little bit, because whether or not every tiny little detail in your tablescape is perfect,
right,
speaking to myself, is perfect, is not actually going to be what you remember about the gathering. It's going to be that time together. So we have to remind ourselves of that.
Okay.
E stands for exercise.
Okay, yes, get exercise. That is definitely a stress release.
If I could only give one tip to everybody, and I would scream it from the rooftops, is exercise. When we're stressed, our body is releasing stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, and those are fine in short bursts, but when we don't actually have a danger that we're not fighting off a tiger, they build up.
Right.
And so exercise, cardio in particular, really helps us burn those off, and it releases endorphins. And I recommend this all the time, not just the holidays, but it's like the biggest thing I do to manage my stress.
And then what is the A?
A stands for adjust expectations.
Okay.
And what I mean by that are financial expectations, social expectations, even traditions.
Right.
Like to really take a look at the things that you might expect yourself to do without even thinking about it.
Right.
And say, is it actually going to bring me joy? Like, do I really need to send a Christmas card to every single family member this year, every single person I've ever met? If it brings you joy, do it. But I think it's important to be intentional about those things.
Right. And then what is the C?
The C is curiosity, or more specifically, compassionate curiosity.
Okay.
This is a term I like to share with my clients all the time to encourage them to pay attention to what's going on in their own mind and their own body from a place of curiosity as opposed to judgment. The holidays bring up a lot of self-judgment.
Right.
You know, you'll find yourself thinking thoughts like, well, my decorations don't look as good as theirs, or my dinner isn't as fancy, or even like, I'm not where I want to be in my life right now, and all my family's coming over and they're going to ask me about it.
Right.
So,
and then what about the E?
The E is exhale.
Ah, okay, so the breathe element of it.
Yeah, so one of the fastest way we can connect to the somatic, the body part of how we experience stress, which is the main part of how we experience stress in our bodies, is through some simple breathing exercises, because the breath specifically connects to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the calming part of the nervous system.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate all the information. And if you're feeling stressed over the holidays, remember to give yourself grace and find that peace. And if you want more information, you can visit us on the web at ciLiving.tv.